Caleb Harrison had not cried in 8 long years, not since laying his wife and baby girl in the cold Texas ground. But when he pulled a burlap sack from Miller's Creek, a tiny, frozen hand grabbed his finger. Her blue lips whispered, "Mama," and he just fell apart in that icy water, weeping all over again. To see how this lost child saved a broken cowboy, go on and subscribe and stay with us to the end. Comment with your hometown below. That winter of 1887 hit Silver Creek harder than anyone could recall. Caleb Harrison rode the frozen fence line, his breath making clouds in the bitter air. At 43, he had ridden this same lonely path for 8 years, every morning and every evening. Alone, his horse, Thunder, snorted and pulled on the reins. "Easy, boy." Caleb patted his neck, but Thunder would not settle. The horse was spooked. His ears twitched and his hooves danced on the frozen earth. Then Caleb heard it. A faint, weak cry coming from the creek. He kicked Thunder hard. He rode straight for Miller's Creek. The water was low, half frozen along the edges. There, caught on a branch, was a burlap feed sack, and it was moving. Caleb was off his horse in a flash. The icy water soaked his boots as his heart hammered. In his years as a Texas Ranger, he had seen things that haunted a man's sleep, but nothing could prepare him for this. Inside was a baby girl, maybe 9 months old. Her lips were blue. Her skin was gray. She was shaking so violently from the cold. "Dear God," the words tore out of him. The baby's pale blue eyes fluttered open. She looked at his weathered face, and her cracked lips moved. "Mama." His own hands shook as he lifted her. She weighed almost nothing in a soaked cotton dress. That thin dress offered no protection. Someone had left this child in the creek to die. "Hold on, little one." His voice cracked. He tucked her inside his coat, against his chest. He tried to give her his warmth, but her breathing was shallow, barely there at all. Thunder stood steady as Caleb mounted one-handed, holding the baby tight against him. He had ridden hard before, but never like this. It felt like death itself was chasing them. Town was 3 miles of frozen ground and whipping wind. Caleb bent low and prayed. He whispered prayers he had not spoken in 8 years. "Don't you die on me. You hear? Don't you dare." The baby's tiny fist grabbed his shirt, a little fighter holding on. And something inside Caleb's chest, a thing he thought long dead, began to crack open. Dr. Thomas Whitfield was finishing his coffee when his door flew open, nearly off its hinges. Caleb Harrison burst in, looking wild. "Doc, I need help now." Thomas knew the steady former ranger never showed fear, but he looked completely broken. What in the world happened? Caleb opened his coat, showing a tiny baby, found her in the creek, tied in a sack. Thomas swept his table clean. "Put her here. She is barely breathing." The baby whimpered as Caleb laid her down, her confused eyes searching. She reached for Caleb and whispered, "Mama." He promised, "I am here." He held her tiny hand while Thomas worked fast, his mind racing. He had saved men who should have died, but this was a helpless child. "She is freezing cold," he said, wrapping her in warm blankets. How long was she in that water? Caleb had no idea. Could have been hours. It is a miracle she is alive at all. Caleb stared at her blue eyes. What kind of monster does this? Thomas just shook his head. "I have seen some terrible things, but this..." As she warmed, the baby would not let go of Caleb's finger. If he moved, she made a weak, heartbreaking sound that tore him up. She needs constant care. Feeding every 2 hours, Thomas explained. You cannot do this alone. Well, I am not leaving her side. You need some help. Just then, Eleanor McBride walked in. She had heard Caleb's horse tearing down Main Street. Doctor? She stopped cold when she saw the tiny baby. All the color drained from her face. Oh, my good Lord. Ellie had not held a baby in 4 years, not since her son Samuel passed. She had buried her husband just weeks before. The pain was too much, but the baby's eyes met hers, and something inside her shifted. What happened? Someone left her to die in that freezing creek. Caleb's voice was rough. Ellie moved closer, drawn in as the baby's eyes followed her. Ellie, I need your help, Thomas said softly. This child needs someone. Caleb is worn out. I can handle it. Caleb cut in. Thomas turned back to Ellie. You are the only one I trust. Will you help? But the baby reached a tiny hand toward her, cooing so soft it just about broke her heart. It was a silent plea for help that Ellie simply could not ignore. Thomas placed the child in her arms, and in that moment something magical happened. The fussy baby calmed right down. Her little fingers wrapped around a piece of Ellie's auburn hair, and she let out a sigh that patched up Ellie's own heart. She's taken a shine to you, Caleb said quietly. Ellie couldn't even speak past the tears. They settled into the back room at Dr. Whitfield's office. It was not much, just a small bed and a rocker, but it was enough. Caleb refused to leave, sleeping in a chair by the door. That first night was the hardest, with the baby waking every hour. They took turns in the dark, learning as they went along. Tilt the bottle up, Ellie showed Caleb, so she'll swallow less air. Caleb watched, amazed, as the baby drank. Look at her go. She is a fighter. She had to be, Ellie answered softly. They worked side by side, focused on the child. A bond was growing between them, built on sleepless nights and a shared purpose. On the third morning, the baby smiled. It was just a small turn of her lips, but it lit up her entire face. She was looking right at Ellie when it happened. Did you see that? Ellie's voice caught. She smiled. The baby then smiled for Caleb, too. She made a happy little sound. She needs a name, Ellie said softly. We cannot keep calling her the baby. Caleb studied her face. She fought to be here. Grace, Ellie whispered. It is a miracle she is alive. The grace of God. Caleb nodded slowly. Grace, I like that name. The baby seemed to respond to it. She babbled when she heard it. Grace it is, Caleb said, and for the first time in 8 years, he smiled. Sheriff Jacob Turner arrived on the 4th day with news that sent a chill down Caleb's spine. Someone is asking about a missing baby, Jacob said, looking uneasy, and offering money for her. Ellie pulled Grace in closer. Who? Mayor Prescott's assistant stopped by. He said it was a family matter that needed to be handled quietly. The mention of Prescott's name made Caleb's jaw clench tight. Judge Henry Prescott was more than the mayor. He was the most powerful man in 3 counties. He owned the bank, the biggest ranch, and when Prescott wanted something, he got it. What did you tell him? Caleb asked. Told him I had not heard a thing, Jacob replied. They're lying. She was abandoned, not lost. Ellie's voice was cold steel. Whoever hurt her won't get a second chance. Caleb just warned. Easy now. I know what matters. They tried to kill her, and now they are scared. Ellie glanced down at the sleeping baby. They should be. Jacob cleared his throat. Folks are talking about you two. Living together, raising this child. Let them talk, Caleb said flatly. But it ain't proper for this town. An unmarried man and woman, some find it sweet. Others, Ellie glared. They can mind their own business, but Prescott will use your reputation against you. After Jacob left, silence fell. Grace slept between them, her future unknown. He's right, Ellie admitted. This town and Prescott both use gossip as a weapon. I don't care what they say. Me neither, but it's about Grace, Ellie whispered. They'll use our living situation to take her. Caleb's voice was firm. They will not. Ellie truly saw him for the first time. His face was lined with loss, but his kind eyes watched over Grace. She saw the love of a parent who had lost everything. Why? She asked quietly. Why do you care so much about her? His voice was heavy with pain. I had a daughter, Lily. She was 3. A fever took her and my wife, Sarah, in the same week. I was gone. I was being a Texas Ranger. I came home too late. They were already gone. For 8 years, I have blamed myself and kept everyone away. I could not lose again. He looked at Grace. But pulling her from that creek, her little hand in mine, it woke something I thought was dead. Ellie reached out and took his hand. I understand. I know, he said, meeting her eyes. Doc told me about your loss. Ellie nodded. We're both broken, aren't we? Caleb said softly. Maybe, she squeezed his hand. But maybe Grace finding us was not an accident. Maybe we are what she needs. And maybe she is what we need. Grace stirred. As they looked at her, something passed between them. An unspoken promise they would face whatever was coming together. On the 5th day, Rosa Mendez came to Dr. Whitfield's office. In came Rosa, the Prescott's terrified housekeeper. It's about the baby, she whispered urgently to them both. Caleb's hand moved near his gun. What do you know? I know who she is, Rosa cried. And who left her in that creek? Ellie sat her down. Tell us. Rosa knew she could not stay silent. The baby, she began shakily, belongs to Miss Charlotte, Judge Prescott's daughter. The room went cold and still. He had sent his 19-year-old pride away 6 months ago. Charlotte had a baby? Ellie breathed. Rosa nodded her head. She loved a ranch hand named Daniel. The judge was furious. He said the scandal would ruin them, so he sent her away. Then, Rosa sobbed, he told Charlotte the baby died. Miss Charlotte still grieves for the child she believes is gone. But the baby lived. Yes, the judge paid a man to handle it. Rosa looked at Grace. I heard them talking about the problem. They said the baby was better off not living with the shame. Who? Caleb growled. Hank Miller from the town stables. He was a weak fella who was desperate for the money. He was supposed to get rid of her, but just could not do it. So he left her in the creek for the cold to do his dirty work. Grace slept, unaware her own grandfather ordered her death. Does Charlotte know she's alive? Rosa shook her head no. We have to tell her. No, Rosa begged. You cannot! If the judge knows I talked, he'll do anything to protect his secret. Anything, she whispered. Caleb stood. Then we'll be ready. Y'all don't understand, she cried. The judge owns this town, the law, the doctor. Everyone here is in his pocket. If he wants her, he'll have to go through me, Caleb said flatly. Hope finally filled Rosa's eyes. You were a Texas Ranger. You are the only one who can stop him. Just then, Grace began to fuss. Ellie held her. and the baby quieted, snuggling close. "She's so lovely," Rosa whispered. "Looks just like her mother." "We won't let him take her," Ellie said, her voice firm. "Be careful," Rosa warned, heading for the door. "The judge sees everything." Caleb stopped her. "Mrs. Mendez, why are you risking it all for us?" Rosa teared up. "I have grandkids. I dream about that baby. I hear her crying. I can't live with this guilt anymore." After she left, Caleb and Ellie looked down at little Grace. "He's coming for her," Ellie said softly. "Let him," Caleb replied. "Be real, Caleb. He's powerful." He just looked at her, his eyes burning. "We have each other. We have the truth. And something he'll never get." "What's that?" "Love." He let Grace's tiny hand wrap around his finger. "We love this child. I'd die before I let anyone hurt her." Ellie felt a flicker of hope, something she had not felt in 4 long years. "Then we fight." "Then we fight," Caleb agreed. Grace just looked up at them, trusting. She did not know the danger, only that this cowboy and teacher felt safe. She reached for Ellie's face, patting her cheek. "Mama," she said. Then she grabbed Caleb's finger. "Papa!" The winter wind howled. As danger drew near, the 3 of them became an unexpected family. The story tore through Silver Creek like a wildfire. Everyone had an opinion about the cowboy and the baby from Miller's Creek. "It's just not right," Martha Dawson muttered. "Living together, unmarried, with that child. It's the kind where a baby lives," her husband shot back. But Martha just huffed. Ellie felt their cold stares all through town. The whispers would stop when she got near. Old friends turned their backs. "They are talking about us again," she said, watching from the doctor's window. Caleb kept feeding Grace. "Let them talk," he said without looking up. "Easy for you to say. They are not calling you names. You send them to me." Ellie looked at this rough cowboy, so gentle with the baby. Grace finished her bottle and babbled, playing with his shirt buttons. "She's a fighter," Ellie said softly. Caleb propped Grace on his shoulder. "Ain't you, little one?" Grace let out a big burp and giggled. They both laughed, and the room felt a little lighter. Then the door opened, and the peace was shattered. Dr. Whitfield rushed in, pale as a sheet. "We got trouble. Judge Prescott is here. He brought lawyers all the way from Dallas." Caleb stood up, carefully handing Grace to Ellie. "Where?" "Town hall. He's called an emergency meeting about the baby." The doctor's face was grim. "Caleb, he claims that child is his family. He's saying she was stolen." "Stolen?" Ellie's voice was sharp. "She was left in a creek to die." "I know, but Prescott has legal papers. They say the baby was kidnapped from a relative passing through here." "That's a bald-faced lie." "Of course it is, but his lawyers will swear to it, and he has judges in his pocket." Caleb grabbed his hat. "Watch, Grace. I'm going to that meeting." "Caleb, hold on," Ellie said, catching his arm. "If you go in there hot-headed, you're playing his game. He wants you to lose your temper. He wants a reason to have you arrested. So I should just sit here while he takes our daughter?" The words hung between them. Our daughter. Neither had said it aloud before. Ellie's grip tightened. "We go together. We stay calm. And we don't give him one single thing he can use against us." Caleb looked at her for a long second, then gave a firm nod. Together, Thomas cleared his throat. "I'll watch Grace. But y'all be careful. That man don't play fair." The town hall was packed solid when they arrived. It looked like half of Silver Creek was there. Caleb saw Sheriff Turner by the door, looking mighty uncomfortable. The sheriff just nodded, no smile. Up front, Judge Prescott sat at a table like he owned the whole county. Caleb figured he pretty much did. The judge was in his late 50s, with sharp eyes and silver hair. He wore a suit that cost more than most folks make in a year. Next to him sat a young woman. She was pale and thin, with big blue eyes that looked lost in her face. She clutched her hands and stared at the floor. It was Charlotte Prescott, Grace's mother. She looked like a ghost. "Ah, Mr. Harrison," Prescott's voice boomed across the room. "And Miss McBride. Welcome. Please, have a seat." "I'll stand," Caleb said. "Suit yourself." Prescott shuffled his papers. "Let's get straight to it. The infant you've been keeping belongs to my family. My daughter Charlotte gave birth some months ago, and the child was stolen by a former employee." "That is not true." Ellie's voice rang out, clear and strong. "That baby was found in a feed sack in Miller's Creek. She was left there to die." Murmurs filled the room. Prescott's jaw tightened. "Miss McBride, I understand you've become attached. But the law is the law. Family rights come before anything else. Charlotte is her mother, and she has every right to her child. Then why didn't she?" Caleb's voice cut in, forward. "If that baby was stolen, why didn't y'all call the sheriff?" "We handled it privately to avoid a scandal," Caleb said flatly. "A baby was missing, and you worried about scandal?" Charlotte finally looked up at Caleb. He saw the fear in her eyes was for her father. Prescott's voice turned to ice. "I am offering you a chance to do the right thing. Return the child. If you do not, I will be forced to take legal action. And believe me, you do not want to face my lawyers." Ellie stood with Caleb. "We are not afraid." "You should be. I have ruined folks more powerful than a teacher and a washed-up cowboy." Prescott's smile was cold. "I am giving you 3 days to hand over the child. After that, the sheriff will remove her by force if he has to." "The hell you will," Caleb growled. Sheriff Turner stepped between them. "Everybody just calm down," the sheriff said. "No, this is exactly the place." Caleb stared hard at Prescott. "You want to take a baby from folks who love her and give her back to the man who wanted her gone? That is it, ain't it?" The room went quiet. "That is a vicious lie." "Is it?" Caleb asked Charlotte. "Tell them what really happened." Tears streamed down Charlotte's cheeks. As she went to speak, her father grabbed her arm. "Charlotte has been through enough." His grip tightened until she winced in pain. "She does not need to be grilled by this man." "He is not the one holding her hostage!" Ellie cried. "Look at her. She is terrified of you. How dare you?" "I dare because I know the truth." Ellie stepped up, her chin high. "I was Charlotte's teacher. I know what kind of man you are. I know what you did when she let you down." Charlotte sobbed, and her father's face went white. "This meeting is over," Prescott said, pulling Charlotte up. 3 days, Caleb, or I will destroy everything you love." He swept out, dragging his daughter with him. Charlotte looked back one time, her eyes begging Ellie, "Please help me." The crowd began to leave, whispering amongst themselves. Caleb stood still. His hands were clenched into tight fists. "Caleb," Ellie said, "we need a plan. He will take her." Caleb's voice was hollow. "He has money and power. What do we have? We have each other, the truth, and 3 days to figure out a way to fight back. They walked to Dr. Whitfield's office in silence. Thomas was inside, pacing with Grace. What happened? I heard shouting. Prescott has given us 3 days, Ellie told him. He'll come for Grace next. We only have 3 days. It will just have to be enough. Caleb ran a hand through his hair. We need to find Hank Miller, the man Prescott hired. Thomas shook his head. Miller's a drunk, but he's not a fool. He will never talk. He fears Prescott. We will just have to make him fear us more. Ellie's voice was sharp. Threats will not help us, Caleb. I was not fixin' to threaten him. I will appeal to his conscience. After all, he could not bring himself to harm a baby. There is still some good in that man. Grace started fussing from all the tension. Ellie rocked her, humming a soft tune that always seemed to calm the little one. Ellie's voice was quiet but firm. There is something else. We need to talk to Charlotte. But her father has her under lock and key. She only goes out for church on Sunday. It is all for show. Ellie looked at Caleb. I can get to her there. Woman to woman. She has a right to know her baby is alive. It is risky. Everything is risky. But Charlotte is another one of his victims. Later that night, Grace was sound asleep. Caleb and Ellie sat together by the low fire, its light casting long shadows. Ellie's voice was soft. Tell me about your wife, about Sarah. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, his voice rough with old pain, he finally spoke. She was the kindest woman I ever knew. She always tried to see the good in folks. She told me I carried the weight of the world. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was. He stared into the embers. When she fell ill, I was not there. I was days away, chasing rustlers. By the time I got back home, she and Lily were both gone. That was not your fault. His eyes were filled with pain. I chose my job over my own family, Ellie. I told myself I was keeping people safe while my own family died without me. You could not have known. No, but I could have been there. I could have held her hand. His voice cracked. I came home to an empty house and 2 fresh graves. Ellie took his hand. I understand blaming yourself for things you could not control. Your husband and your son. She nodded, tears welling up. William was in the mine when it collapsed. I begged him not to go. I had a terrible feeling. He just laughed and said he would be home for supper. He never came home. 3 weeks later, little Samuel got sick. I tried everything. I stayed up all night, holding him, praying. He died right there in my arms. I just thought if I had prayed harder or been a better mother. Stop, Caleb said gently. Listen to me, Ellie, he said, holding her hands tight. What happened to your son was not your fault. You loved him with all your heart. Sometimes love just is not enough, and that is not on you. Then why does it feel like it is? She cried. Because that is what grief does. It fools you, makes you think you could have changed things. I lost 8 years of my life to that kind of thinking. It does not help a bit. It just keeps you stuck. Ellie just looked at him, her eyes full of tears. When did you get so smart? He gave a sad little smile. Just now, I reckon. Outside, the wind whipped up, and a new snow began to fall. By dawn, Caleb was already gone. They sat there holding hands as the fire burned low. From the other room, Grace made a soft sound. I'm scared, Ellie finally said. Not for me, For her. If Prescott gets her back, he will not. You cannot promise that. No, Caleb said, looking right at her. But I will fight for her. And I will fight for you. Why? She asked, the word just tumbling out. You barely know who I am. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Because when I look at you, I see someone who understands. Someone who has walked through fire and is still standing. He hesitated. And because, for the first time in 8 long years, I do not feel so alone. Something warm and new bloomed in Ellie's chest. I do not feel alone either, she whispered. They stayed that way until the fire was nothing but embers, not wanting the moment to end. The wind howled as the new storm hit. The next morning, Caleb rode out before the sun came up. He went to find Hank Miller, who lived in a shack on odd jobs and cheap whiskey. Caleb knocked, and it took a while for Miller to answer. He looked just as Rosa had said. A thin, shaky man with the bloodshot eyes of a heavy drinker. Seeing Caleb turned his face white. I am not talking to you. Oh, yes you are. Caleb shouldered his way right into the shack. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. I do not know anything. Yes, you do. Caleb's voice was cold as ice. Prescott paid you to get rid of a baby. You could not do it, so you left her in the creek. Miller's face crumpled. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just needed the money. My wife is sick. Save it. Caleb grabbed his shirt. That baby almost died. She was blue from the cold and barely breathing when I found her. You left her. I know! Tears ran down Miller's face. I hear her crying every single night. I see her face when I close my eyes. I am going to hell for it. Caleb, let him go. Maybe. Or maybe you can make it right. How can I ever make that right? By telling the truth. Testify what Prescott paid you to do. Miller shook his head wildly. I cannot. He will kill me. I know what that man can do. I'm the one who pulled that baby from the creek. Remember? Caleb said, stepping closer. Now, I know a thing or two about you, Hank Miller. You're a scared man who made a terrible choice. You were desperate, but somewhere deep down, you just couldn't bring yourself to kill that child. Miller just fell apart, shaking and crying. You've got one chance to make this right. Just one. Help me stop Prescott, and you might just be able to look at yourself in the mirror again. And if I don't? Caleb's eyes went cold as stone. Then I'll make sure everyone in this whole territory knows. Your wife, your neighbors, every soul you know. You'll be known as the man who left a baby to die. Threw her in a creek. Miller stared back, his eyes all red and raw. You'd do that? Caleb replied, in a heartbeat. The silence was heavy. At last, Miller's shoulders slumped. He was defeated. What do you need from me? While that was going on, Ellie headed to the little white church at the edge of town. Service was still an hour away, but she knew Charlotte would be there early. That girl always tried to find a little peace away from her father. And sure enough, there she sat in the front pew, her head bowed. She was startled when Ellie sat beside her. Miss McBride, Charlotte whispered, her voice barely there. You shouldn't be here. If my father sees you, Ellie said gently, he isn't here yet, and there's something you need to know. Charlotte's eyes grew wide with fear. Please, I can't help you. Ellie leaned in close. Your baby is alive. Those words hit Charlotte like a ton of bricks. The color drained from her face. What? She choked out. She's alive, honey. She's healthy, and bless her heart, she has your eyes. Ellie took the girl's trembling hands. Your father lied. She didn't die. He paid a man to be rid of her, but the man's heart failed him. He put her in the creek, but she's a fighter. Caleb found her. He saved her life." Charlotte was shaking all over. "My baby, my Emma," Ellie said softly. "We've been calling her Grace." "Grace," Charlotte whispered the name like a prayer. "It's perfect. Is she really? Is she really alive?" "She's waiting for you, Charlotte. She's the prettiest little thing I have ever seen." And then Charlotte just broke down, sobbing right into her hands. Ellie held her tight, letting all that joy and grief and rage pour out. "He told me she died." Charlotte's voice shook with a fury. "He held me while I cried for her, said it was God's will. He let me grieve for months while my baby was out there, alive." She looked up, a fire in her eyes. "I want to see her. I have to hold my baby." "You can," Ellie said, "but your father is fighting us for her. He's threatening to take her by force." "He doesn't want her, honey. He just wants control, like he controls everything else." Charlotte wiped her tears, her sadness hardening into steel. "I will not let him have her. He will not hurt her the way he's hurt me." "Then help us," Ellie pleaded. "Stand up to him. Tell the truth." Charlotte's newfound courage flickered. "He'll destroy me, cut me off without a dime. He'll tell the whole world I'm a liar, maybe. But you'll have your daughter, and folks who believe you." Ellie squeezed her hands. "You'll have us. Why would you help me? My baby almost died because of me." "No, ma'am. Your father is the reason. You're his victim, too, Charlotte. It's time to stop being a victim and start being a mother." Charlotte's expression hardened. Something inside her just snapped. "What do I need to do?" "Meet us tonight. Dr. Whitfield's office. After dark. Your daddy won't ever know. And Charlotte, be ready. What happens next won't be easy, but I promise you it is worth it." Charlotte nodded, wiping a tear. "I will be there. And Miss McBride, thank you for not giving up on my baby when I did." As Ellie left, Charlotte grabbed her hand. That cowboy, Caleb Harrison. Charlotte's voice trembled. Does he truly love her? Ellie remembered Caleb's face when he looked at Grace, how he'd held her all night when she was sick, singing sweet lullabies until she finally slept. "Yes," she said simply. "He loves that little girl like she was his own flesh and blood." New tears fell down Charlotte's face, but this time she was smiling. "Then she is lucky, much luckier than me." That night, they gathered in the doctor's office. Caleb and Ellie, Thomas and Rosa, and Charlotte, who'd snuck out. The back way from her father's house. In the corner, Grace slept in her basket, peaceful and unaware of the fight that was coming. "He's got 2 days," Caleb said, watching the street. "We have to move fast." "Has Miller agreed to testify?" Thomas asked. "He is scared, but he will do it. The guilt has been eating him alive." "And Charlotte?" Charlotte stepped into the light, her voice steady. "I will testify. I will tell them everything my father did, how he lied, how he paid to have my baby taken." "That is enough," Ellie said firmly. "We have 2 witnesses telling the truth. That has to be enough." "It will not be," Rose said softly. "The judge is in Prescott's pocket. He will never rule against him. Then we don't go to the judge." Caleb turned to face them all. "We go straight to the people." "What do you mean by that?" "Prescott's power comes from his good name. If we show this whole town who he really is, his power is gone." Thomas shook his head. "That is a dangerous game. If we accuse him in public, we can prove it. We have Rosa's testimony, Miller's confession, and Charlotte's story." Caleb met each of their gazes. Prescott has been hiding behind his money for too long. It is time we drag all his secrets out into the sunlight. A soft coo came from the basket. Grace was awake. Charlotte moved toward her, then paused, looking at Ellie. "May I?" Ellie nodded and stepped aside. Charlotte lifted her daughter for the first time in 9 long months. Grace stared up at this new face, her eyes full of curiosity. Then she reached up and touched her mama's cheek, just like she always did. "Hello, darling," Charlotte's voice broke. "Hello, my beautiful Grace. I'm your mama." Grace's face scrunched up, and everyone held their breath. They waited for her to cry, but instead she just grinned and grabbed her mama's hair. Rosa whispered, She knows her mother." Charlotte's tears mixed with her laughter. "She's so beautiful, so perfect. How could anyone ever want to hurt her?" Ellie felt her own tears as she watched the reunion. This was why they were fighting, this love. Caleb moved to stand beside her. "We are going to win this," he said quietly. "I do not know how yet, but we will." Ellie looked up at him. "I know. How do you know?" She glanced at Charlotte and Grace, at the small group fighting for one child they barely knew. "Because we have something Prescott will never understand." She slipped her hand into Caleb's. "We have something worth fighting for." The storm outside howled. Snow fell thick, covering the town in white. But inside, the small room was warm and safe. Grace fell asleep in her mother's arms, dreaming of love. The true battle was still to come. But for now, they had each other, and sometimes that was enough to get by. Prescott's deadline arrived with a bitter wind. Caleb had not slept a wink all night. He spent the night pacing, planning every move. Now he watched the sun rise over Silver Creek. He knew everything would change before it set again. "You ought to eat something," Ellie's voice said. "I am not hungry." She touched his arm gently. "You need your strength. We all do." He turned to look at her. Dark circles were under her eyes, too, but her gaze was pure steel. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "No," she smiled a little, "but I am going to do it anyway." Grace woke with a happy babble, reaching for someone. Caleb lifted her from the basket. He held her close, breathing in her sweet baby scent. "Whatever happens today," he whispered to her, "I want you to know something. You saved me. You and Ellie both. I was empty inside before you all, just going through the motions." Ellie watched him, and her eyes were soft. "Now I've got a reason to fight, a reason to live." He looked at her. 2 reasons, in fact. Before Ellie could respond, the door flew open. Thomas rushed in, his face full of urgency. "Prescott's moving early. He has got Sheriff Turner and 4 deputies coming now. They will be here in 10 minutes. He said noon. Ellie's voice was sharp. He lied. That man lies about everything. Thomas grabbed his medical bag. "You all need to go now. Take Grace and leave." "No," Caleb said firmly. "Running will not help. He will just hunt us down. We do what we planned. We take this to the people." He handed Grace to Ellie. "Thomas, Ring the church bells. Get everyone to the town square. But, sir, that is for emergencies. This is an emergency. A man tried to get rid of a baby and is now using the law to finish the job. If that ain't one, I do not know what is." Thomas nodded and ran. Soon the church bells rang. The loud, urgent sound called every person in Silver Creek. Caleb strapped on his gun belt. Ellie watched with worried eyes. "You are not planning to shoot anyone, are you?" "No, but Prescott needs to see I mean business." He cupped her face. "Listen to me. No matter what happens, you protect Grace. Get her to safety if things go south. What about you?" "I can handle myself." Her voice trembled. "That is not what I asked. I cannot lose you, Caleb. Not now." He kissed her forehead. "You will not lose me. I promise." They walked out into the cold morning. People were already heading to the town square, confused and curious as the bells kept ringing. The sound echoed off the buildings. Sheriff Turner met them on Main Street. He looked apologetic but determined. "Caleb, Miss McBride, I have orders to take the baby." "Whose orders, Jacob?" "The law's or Prescott's?" The sheriff's jaw tightened. The judge signed the papers. "It is legal." "Legal ain't always right. You know that baby was left in the creek to die." "I only know what the law says. And the law says that child belongs with her family. Her family tried to kill her." A crowd was gathering now, watching them. "Please." The sheriff lowered his voice. "Do not do this in front of everyone. Just give me the baby and we can sort this out quietly." "No," Caleb's voice rang out loud. "The time for being quiet is over. This town deserves to know the truth about Judge Prescott." "Caleb, do not. The truth about his own granddaughter. The truth about the man running this town." The crowd pressed closer, murmuring. Caleb climbed onto the raised town platform. It was the same one used for town announcements and sometimes for public justice. "My name is Caleb Harrison. Most of you know me. I have lived on the edge of town for 8 years. I have kept to myself." He looked out at the faces. "A week ago, I found a baby in Miller's Creek. She was tied up in a feed sack, left to freeze. I pulled her out and took her to Dr. Whitfield." "We saved her life," the crowd murmured. "That baby's name is Grace. And her grandfather, the man who wanted her gone, is standing right there." He pointed at Prescott. The judge had just arrived with his Dallas lawyers. His face turned purple. "That is slander." Prescott pushed through the crowd. "This man is a liar." "Sheriff, arrest him." "Hold on." An older woman stepped forward. It was Martha Dawson, the town gossip. "I want to hear him out, to hear what he has to say." The sheriff said, "Mrs. Dawson, he is dangerous. I just told him. Hold on." Martha crossed her arms. "I have known Judge Prescott for 30 years, and I have known Caleb for 8. Only one of them has ever been honest with me. The other one took my sister's farm over a 3-day late payment." A wave of murmurs went through the crowd. Prescott's face got dark. "This is ridiculous. I will not stand here and be accused by me." Everyone turned. Charlotte Prescott was at the edge of the crowd, pale, but her voice was steady as a rock. The folks parted for her like the sea. Charlotte Prescott's voice turned sweet as molasses. "Honey, what are you doing here?" "You ought to be home resting. I ought to be with my daughter." Charlotte's voice never shook. "The daughter you told me was dead. A deep silence fell over that square. Nobody made a move. Charlotte, you are confused. The stress has been... Don't. Her eyes were on fire. Do not pretend you care about me. Don't you dare act like a loving father after lying to me for 9 whole months. She turned to the crowd. My name is Charlotte Prescott. 9 months ago, I had a baby girl. My own father told me she died. He held me as I cried. He watched me grieve. He let me believe my own child was gone from this world. Her voice broke, but she pushed on. But she did not die. My father paid a man to take her away, to get rid of her. He was ashamed. An unmarried daughter with a child would ruin his good name. She's lying, Prescott finally cracked. She is not well. She has no idea what she's saying. I know exactly what I am saying. Charlotte walked over to Ellie and reached for Grace. Ellie handed her the baby. Grace looked right at Charlotte, smiled, and reached for her face. This is my daughter. Charlotte held her high for everyone to see. Look at her. Look at her eyes, her hair. She is mine. And my father tried to take her from this world. The crowd gasped. Prescott was losing all control. His perfect image was crumbling. She is delusional. The grief has made her crazy. Then, explain this, a voice said. Rosa Mendes pushed through the crowd. I have worked in that house for 15 years. I heard the judge talking to Hank Miller. I heard him say that baby would be better off gone than to grow up without a proper name. You are fired. Prescott's face was purple with fury. You are a lying, ungrateful woman. I am telling the truth. A thing you would not know if it bit you. There is more, another voice said. Hank Miller stumbled forward, looking like he had not slept in a month. His hands were shaking and tears streamed down his face. I did it. I am the one who put her in that creek. The judge paid me $50 to make the problem disappear. He dropped to his knees in the dirt. I could not bring myself to do it, so I put her in the water. I told myself God would decide. He looked at Caleb with haunted eyes. You found her. You saved her. And I have been living in a terrible place ever since, knowing what I almost did. Arrest that man, Prescott screamed at the sheriff. He just confessed to a terrible crime. The sheriff replied. He also confessed to following your orders. The sheriff's voice turned to ice. Reckon you're the one who ought to be arrested. I'll have your badge for this, Prescott seethed. Go on and try, Sheriff Turner replied. He stepped forward, hand on his gun. I owed you money, but I sure don't owe you my soul. Not anymore. The crowd was turning on Prescott, and Caleb could feel the anger rising. Folks who once respected Prescott now saw him clearly. Those who had feared him were getting brave. This is just crazy, Prescott said, grabbing his lawyer. Do something for me. Sir, I can't. I pay you to protect me, not to think. Well, sir, the truth's got no protection. Prescott looked around for a friendly face. But all he found were hard stares and crossed arms. Y'all will regret this, he hissed. Every last one of you. I own this town. I own all of you. Without me, you are nothing. No, we ain't nothing. Martha Dawson stepped forward. We're just folks who finally opened our eyes. Prescott lunged for Grace in Charlotte's arms. Give me my child. Caleb moved like lightning, twisting Prescott's arm back until he fell to his knees. Touch her again, and I'll break it. You can't do this to me, Prescott yelled. You're not doing anything to anyone. Sheriff Turner pulled out his handcuffs. Henry Prescott, you're under arrest for a whole list of crimes. You can't arrest me. I'm Judge Prescott. Not anymore. You are not. The sheriff snapped the cuffs on. Take him to jail. 2 deputies dragged Prescott away. He was still shouting threats as the crowd spat on the ground where he walked. Then it got real quiet. Charlotte stood holding Grace, tears rolling down her cheeks. The baby started to fuss. Shh, it's all right, Charlotte rocked her. It's all over now, sweet pea. But Grace wasn't looking at Charlotte. She was reaching right for Ellie, her little arms outstretched, her face wrinkled up. Mama, the word was clear as a bell. Mama. Charlotte froze. All the joy left her face, replaced by a deep hurt. She wants you, she whispered. Ellie stepped forward, her own eyes full of tears. Charlotte, I am so sorry. We never meant to. You saved her. Charlotte gently passed Grace into Ellie's arms. The baby snuggled right in and calmed down. You and Mr. Harrison gave her love when I couldn't. You're her mother now. I just gave birth to her. Charlotte watched them with a mix of love and heartbreak. She doesn't even know who I am. She knows you, Ellie said softly. And she loves you. The 2 women just stood there. One carried Grace in her body. The other carried her in her heart. Both loved that little girl beyond measure. What are we going to do now? Ellie asked. I don't rightly know, Charlotte said, wiping her eyes. I have nowhere to go. My father will cut me off completely. But you have us now. Caleb stepped up. We are not leaving you, Charlotte. You are Grace's mother, and that makes you family. Charlotte said family like the word was foreign to her. I am not sure I know what that means. Then let us show you. The crowd was heading home, but many of them stopped. They touched Charlotte's arm, offered support, and welcomed her into the community that had finally seen the truth. Dr. Whitfield came over with a blanket. Y'all are going to freeze. Come on inside for some tea. They all gathered in his office. Caleb, Ellie, Charlotte, Rosa, and little Grace, warming by the fire. The chill left their hands, but the feeling in the room was still mighty complicated. My father will not stay in jail. Charlotte stared at her tea. He has too many connections, too many people who owe him. Let him come, Caleb said, his voice hard as iron. The whole town saw him arrested. His name is Mud. You do not know him like I do. He always finds a way. Not this time. Ellie sat beside her. This time, he cannot hide in the shadows. Everyone knows what he did. Grace was fast asleep in Ellie's arms. Charlotte gently touched her daughter's face, worn out from all the drama. She is so beautiful. She looks just like Daniel. Daniel? Ellie asked quietly. Her father. The man I loved. A sad smile appeared on Charlotte's face. He worked on my father's ranch. We met in secret for months. When I found out I was pregnant, he wanted to marry me and give us a real life. What happened to him? Charlotte's smile faded away. My father happened. He found out. He had Daniel beaten badly and run clean out of town. He threatened to end him if he ever returned. I have not seen him since that day. I do not even know if he is still living. We could find him. Caleb leaned in. I still know some folks from my ranger days, people who are good at tracking someone down. You would do that for me? For Grace? She deserves to know her father. Fresh tears welled up in Charlotte's eyes. Why? Why y'all being so kind to me? My family tried to hurt your baby. She is not our baby, Ellie said softly, but honestly, she is yours. We were just keeping her safe. But she loves you. She calls you Mama. She will learn to love you, too. A child's heart is big. There is room for all of us. Just then, Sheriff Turner walked in, looking grim. We have got a problem. Prescott's lawyers from Dallas are already trying to get him released. They are claiming the arrest was illegal, that there is no real evidence. No evidence? Caleb shot to his feet. Miller confessed in front of 50 witnesses. They say Miller is just an unreliable drunk. They claim he made it all up, and that Rosa, as an old employee, just holds a grudge. That is the story they are spinning. Jacob sighed. Look, I believe you. I know Prescott is guilty as all get out, but believing it ain't the same as proving it in court. We need real proof, Caleb said, pacing the floor. Prescott gave Miller $50. That kind of money leaves a trail, maybe bank records or something. My father is a careful man, Charlotte warned. He never writes a thing down. Leaves no evidence. That's how he's gotten away with it all his life. But then Rosa spoke up. There is something. Everyone turned. She'd been sitting quietly in the corner. What do you mean, Rosa? Ellie asked softly. The judge. He keeps a secret ledger in his study. I've seen it. He writes down every dirty deal, every bribe, every secret. He's had it for years. Well, why in the world would he do that? Insurance, Rosa's voice was hard. He uses it to make sure folks who cross him stay in line. He holds that proof over their heads. Do you know where he keeps it? Yes. In his study. It's in a wall safe, hidden behind a portrait of his wife. Caleb looked to Sheriff Turner. Can you get a warrant? Not without better evidence. Besides, his lawyers would have it gone before we even knocked on the door. Then we aren't waiting for a warrant. Caleb's voice was firm. We're going in tonight. That's breaking the law, Caleb. I can't be a part of it. Then don't be. I'll go by myself. If I get caught, it's all on me. No, Ellie stood tall. You are not going alone. I'm with you. Don't you argue with me, Caleb Harrison. We started this together, and we will finish it together. I'm coming too, Charlotte said, her voice quiet but strong. I know that house and the guard schedules. I know how to get in without being seen. Charlotte, if your father finds you, then let him find me. I'm not scared of him any more. He will not control my life. She stood with fire in her eyes. He tried to hurt my daughter. He can't do anything to me worse than that. The three of them stood together. The cowboy, the teacher, and the judge's own daughter. They were an unlikely team, fighting for a baby who had already beaten the odds tonight, then. Caleb nodded. After midnight, I'll stay here with Grace, Rosa offered, reaching for the child. Ellie paused, then handed Grace to her. The little one just snuggled right into Rosa's arms. Protect her with your life. I will. I swear it. Dr. Whitfield cleared his throat. I'll stay, too. You might need help. Nothing is going to go wrong, Caleb said, sounding more certain than he felt. We get in, get the ledger, and get out. Nothing about this has been simple, Ellie reminded him. He looked her right in the eye, and a whole conversation passed between them without a single word. But some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The hours until midnight dragged on. Caleb cleaned his pistol. Ellie and Charlotte mapped out their plan. All the while Grace played happily. She had no idea of the danger her family was walking into. When the clock hit 12, they moved to the door. Rosa held the sleeping Grace. Dr. Whitfield nodded. Y'all be careful now. Thomas gripped Caleb's hand. Ellie kissed Grace's forehead, promising to return. Charlotte touched her daughter's hand. I love you, she whispered. I'll make it all up to you. Then they stepped out into the cold night. 3 determined souls walked toward a final confrontation. The mansion was a dark shadow. There, Charlotte pointed. A side door, servant's entrance. It's never locked. They moved like ghosts in the cold. Caleb led the way, hand on his gun. Ellie followed, her heart pounding hard. Charlotte guided them with whispers. The door creaked as they went inside. The house was dead silent, too silent. The study's this way, Charlotte urged. She led them down a dark hall. She opened the study door, and they froze. Judge Prescott sat at his desk, a gun in his hand and a cold smile. Welcome home. I've been expecting y'all. His smile widened as they stood frozen in the doorway. The gun never wavered. Did you think I wouldn't know my own daughter? He motioned with the gun. Come on in. Close that door behind you. Caleb moved in front of the women. Put the gun down, Prescott. The judge just chuckled. He rose, his eyes locked on Charlotte. You're a disappointment, daughter. Sacrificed? Charlotte's voice shook. You tried to kill my baby girl. I tried to save our family from shame. You're the one who laid with a farmhand. Watch your mouth, Caleb's voice cut in. Prescott just gave an ugly laugh. The noble cowboy, huh? Defending a lady's honor like in a storybook? You ain't a hero, Harrison. You just found a baby. I know right from wrong. That's more than I can say for you, Caleb said. Prescott sneered. Right and wrong? In the real world, there's just winners and losers. He aimed the gun at Caleb. And tonight, cowboy, you lose. Charlotte stepped forward, her hands up. Father, please, just let us go. We'll leave and never come back. Leave? Prescott's laugh was harsh. So I can wonder when you'll be back? To tell everyone my secret? No. This ends with y'all in the ground. Ellie gasped. You can't get away with this. Can't I? Intruders. A tragedy. The sheriff owes me. My lawyers will clean it up. He shrugged dismissively. This ain't the first problem I have made disappear. What problems? Caleb asked, trying to buy time. What else have you done, Prescott? You want a confession? Fine. Prescott's eyes had a dark glitter. Daniel Martinez. Charlotte's precious ranch hand. You want to know what happened to him? Charlotte went pale. What did you do? I had him killed 3 months after I ran him out of town. Paid 2 men to find him and put a bullet in his head. He watched his daughter's face crumble with satisfaction. He was fixin' to come back for you. Imagine that nerve. A stable boy thinking he could take my daughter. No. Charlotte's voice was just a whisper. No, you are lying. Why would I lie? He is dead, Charlotte. Been dead for 6 months. Buried in New Mexico. And no one will ever find him. A sound of pure agony tore from Charlotte as she collapsed. Ellie caught her before she hit the ground, holding her. You monster. Ellie's voice shook with fury. You absolute monster. I am a father protecting his family. Everything I did was for our future. Prescott's voice got louder. But you could not see that, could you, Charlotte? You fell for the help. You got pregnant. You had to ruin everything. She ruined nothing, Caleb said, his hand moving slow. You did. You ruined this family with your pride. Don't, Prescott said, noticing the move. He raised his weapon. Touch that gun and you are dead. You are going to kill us anyway. True, but it can be quick or it can be slow. Your choice. Caleb's mind was racing. He had to protect Ellie and Charlotte, but one wrong move could get them all killed. The ledger, he stalled. Rosa told us about it. The one with all your secrets, all the bribes, the blackmail, the murders. Prescott's smile flickered. Rosa talks too much. She is next. You cannot kill everyone who knows the truth. Watch me, Father, Charlotte said, pulling herself up. Her face was streaked with tears, but her voice was solid stone. I want to see it. See what? The ledger. Before you kill us, I want to see proof of what you are. Prescott studied her. What difference does it make? Because I want to know. Charlotte's voice broke. I want to know what kind of man my father really is. Something that looked like pride flickered in his eyes. He had to show off his power one last time. Fine. He walked to a portrait of his late wife. You want to see your father's legacy? Here it is. He kept the gun on them and swung the portrait aside. It revealed a small safe. His fingers started working the combination. This was the moment. But before Caleb could act, the door behind them crashed open. Nobody move! Sheriff Turner burst in. He had 4 deputies with him. His eyes took in the whole scene in a second. Prescott at the safe, the others against the wall, the gun in his hand. Put the weapon down, Judge. His face twisted in rage. This is my home. You're holding 3 people at gunpoint. I told him, put it down. You work for me, Turner. The sheriff's voice went cold. Owed you. Past tense. Now I work for the people of this town, and they want justice. Then everything stood still. The tension was heavy. Caleb could see Prescott weighing his odds. Then slowly, the judge gave in. He lowered his gun. You're making a big mistake, Jacob. One you'll regret. Maybe so. Turner took the weapon. But at least I'll be able to sleep at night. Deputies quickly surrounded Prescott. They cuffed his hands behind his back. But the judge wasn't done. This changes nothing. I'll be out by morning. Turner gave a grim smile. Your lawyer's already tried. Judge Crawford is here from the county. He's been reviewing evidence for an hour. It seems a lot of people have waited a long time for this. They were just afraid to speak up. Evidence? What evidence? Turner just nodded to one of his men. The deputy stepped forward and opened the safe. Inside were stacks of papers and a big leather ledger. Rosa told us where to find it. Dr. Whitfield kept you busy while we got a warrant from the judge. Turner pulled out the ledger and flipped through its pages. My lord, it is all right here. Names, dates, amounts, every last crooked deal you ever made. Prescott's face went white. That's private property. You can't. I can. And I did. Turner handed the book to a deputy. Take this to Judge Crawford. Every page. As they led Prescott out, he turned and looked at Charlotte. For a moment, his arrogant mask fell. Caleb saw the man beneath. I did it for you, his voice cracked. Everything was for this family. No. Charlotte met his eyes, steady as a rock. You did it for yourself, for your pride and your name. You never once cared about me. You only ever cared about yourself. Charlotte, he pleaded. Don't you say my name. Her voice was ice. My father died the day he had my baby thrown in that creek. Then they took Prescott away. The door shut, and the huge room felt terribly empty. Charlotte collapsed. She sank into a chair, shaking all over. Ellie knelt beside her, taking her hand. He killed Daniel. He killed him, and he never told me. I am so sorry, Ellie cried. So sorry, Charlotte. I kept hoping. All these months, I hoped he would come back for me, that we would find each other. Charlotte's face crumpled. And he has been gone this entire time. Caleb stood back, giving them space, his own heart a tangled mess. Relief, anger, and grief for a man he never knew. Sheriff Turner walked over. How did you know we were coming? I didn't. Caleb shook his head. I figured we were all on our own. Rosa came to us right after you left. Said she had a bad feeling. Asked us to follow you. Turner glanced at the women. It is a good thing we did. Good thing? Caleb's voice was hollow. Is it really over? That ledger will put him away for life? Murder? Bribery? Fraud? The man kept records of it all. Turner shook his head. Arrogant fool. Thought he was untouchable. They got Charlotte to Dr. Whitfield's office. She cried quietly for Daniel, completely broken, a silent grief for a life that was now lost. Rosa met them, holding a fussing baby Grace. It's over, Ellie said, taking Grace. He is going to prison, thank God, Rosa whispered as Charlotte stared blankly. Grace's happy babbling finally pulled Charlotte back. Can I hold her? She asked. Ellie gave her the baby. Hello, darling, Charlotte cried, her voice breaking. I am sorry your father never got to meet you. He would have loved you. Grace cooed and snuggled. It was like she understood, offering her own comfort. Ellie and Caleb stepped away to the window. As dawn broke, Ellie whispered, It is really over. Caleb looked at her. Now we figure out what is next. With them and with us. Ellie asked, Us? I have been thinking about a future. His voice was rough. A real family, he said. With you. Ellie's heart stopped. Caleb, it is just too soon. I know. But y'all brought me back to life after 8 years. I cannot lose you. You will not marry me. The question hung in the air between them. You do not have to answer now, he said softly. Just know that my future includes you and Grace. Before Ellie could answer, Charlotte's voice cut in. She should call you Mama. Charlotte held the sleeping baby. Her eyes were red, but she looked peaceful at last. You saved her. She loves you, but you are her mother. I only gave birth to her. You truly raised her. I want to know her, but I cannot be her mother. That I'm the one she needs. We can figure this out together, Ellie said. You don't have to give her up. I am not giving her up. I am making sure she has the best life. Charlotte looked at Caleb. You love her, do you not? Like she was your own, and you love her too. Charlotte turned to Ellie. I see it. I see it every time you look at her. I do. Ellie's voice cracked. I love her so much, it scares me. Well, then that is my answer. Charlotte stood up slow. I want you all to raise her together. Charlotte, let me finish. She took a deep breath. I do not have anywhere to go. My father is in prison. Everything he owned will be taken by the court. I have nothing to offer her. Nothing but love. Love is enough. Caleb's voice was strong. We will figure out the rest. We are family now. We are Grace's family, and family sticks together. He looked at Ellie. She nodded, tears on her face. That is right. Charlotte, you can stay with us. Help us raise her. She will know you are her mother. Everything? Charlotte's voice shook. Even about Daniel and what almost happened. everything. Ellie took her hand. When she is old enough, we will tell her the whole story. About her father who loved her, and her mother who fought so hard for her. Charlotte finally broke down, but with tears of relief. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you for not giving up on my baby, or on me." Grace stirred, woken by the emotion. She opened her eyes, looked at the three of them, and reached for Caleb with a happy noise. "Papa." Caleb took her in his arms. "I am here, little one. Papa is here." Then she turned and reached for Ellie. "Mama." Ellie stood beside Caleb, and Grace held on to them both. She was babbling, happy as can be. "Well, she knows," Rose said softly. "She knows she is loved." Dr. Whitfield cleared his throat. He had been standing quietly, just watching. "I hate to interrupt this moment, but there is something you all should know." "What is it?" Caleb looked over. Judge Crawford sent word. Prescott's ledger was full of secrets. There is evidence of crooked dealings all the way to the top. Federal marshals are on their way. Federal marshals. Prescott has been buying off officials for years. The whole thing is going to blow wide open. Dr. Whitfield paused. It is going to be chaos for a while. A lot of folks will be looking for someone to blame. Let 'em look. Caleb held Ellie tighter. "We have nothing to hide." "I know, but you all might want to keep your heads down till things settle." Caleb looked at his family, his strange, beautiful, and unexpected family. "We will be careful." He kissed Grace's head. "But we are not hiding anymore. It is time to live in the light." The sun was fully up now, shining in the windows. Grace just laughed and clapped her little hands. Ellie smiled through her tears. She's a smart little thing. Charlotte reached out and touched her daughter's cheek. She knows when good things are coming. Caleb looked at the three of them. The woman he loved, the baby who saved him, and the brave young mother. They had survived it all, faced down a monster, and won. Now they could finally start to heal. Ellie turned to him, her eyes bright. "About that question you asked earlier." Caleb's heart jumped. "I told you there was no rush. I know what you said," she whispered. She touched his face. "But I know what I want, and the answer is yes. Yes, I'll marry you." He kissed her then, a kiss full of hope, right in front of everyone. Grace just giggled, trying to get in on the hug. Charlotte laughed through her own tears while Rosa and Thomas clapped. For the first time in 8 years, Caleb felt pure, simple joy. Just then, the door swung open. Sheriff Turner stepped inside, his face looking troubled. "Sorry to interrupt, folks. There's a fella here looking for Charlotte Prescott." Charlotte tensed up. "Who?" "Says his name is Daniel Martinez." The room went dead silent. Charlotte's face lost all its color. "That's not possible. My father said he was gone." "Well, ma'am," Turner said, "either your father lied about that too, or a ghost is in my office." He stepped aside. "He says he's been searching for you for 6 months." In the doorway stood a young man with dark, desperate eyes that landed right on Charlotte. "Charlotte," he choked out, his voice breaking. "I finally found you!" Charlotte was frozen solid. Then she let out a cry that was full of grief and love. "Daniel!" She ran straight into his arms, and he held on like he'd never let go. "Your father's men, they left me for dead," he whispered into her hair. "But I survived. A family in a farmhouse saved me. I've been looking for you ever since. I heard about the trial and about the baby." His eyes moved toward Grace, who was still in Caleb's arms. "The sheriff told me everything," he said, tears on his face. "Is that our little girl?" Charlotte just nodded, too emotional to speak. "Can I see her?" Caleb brought Grace over. The baby looked at this new man and gave him that beautiful smile. Daniel reached out with a trembling hand and touched his daughter's cheek. "She's beautiful." "She looks just like you, Charlotte. She has your eyes." "May I hold her?" he asked. Caleb carefully placed Grace into Daniel's arms. He held her like she was made of fine glass. He looked so fragile, like one deep breath might shatter him. "Howdy, mija," he said, voice shaking. "I'm your daddy. I've been searching for you a long, long time." Grace stared at him a moment, then reached up and playfully pinched his nose, giggling. The whole room broke into laughter while wiping tears. "She likes you," Charlotte whispered, leaning into Daniel's shoulder. "I reckon she knows." "Knows what?" he asked. "That you're hers. That you came back for her," Charlotte said, eyes full of the love she'd kept hidden for so long. "Nothing could keep you away." Daniel kissed her forehead and glanced around at Caleb, Ellie, Rosa, Thomas, and the sheriff who'd stood by him. "Thank y'all," his voice thick with feeling. "Thank y'all for saving my family." "That's what family's for," Caleb said, wrapping an arm around Ellie. "We got each other's backs." Grace babbled happily, grabbing at Daniel's shirt, then Charlotte, and reaching out to Ellie and Caleb. She wanted everybody close, all together. "She's got herself a heap of folks who love her." Ellie smiled through tears. Charlotte looked round at every face in that room, old, new, broken, and healing. "We all do," she said softly. Outside, the sun crept over Silver Creek, painting the town gold. Inside, a family came together, not by blood, but by choice, love, and the strongest bonds forged in tough times. Grace, that little fighter, laughed in her daddy's arms, surrounded by folks sworn to never let her be alone again. Daniel held Grace all night long, couldn't bring himself to put her down. He took in every inch of her sweet face, the curve of her cheeks, the twinkle in her eyes, the way she smiled, squeezing his finger. "She's just perfect." His voice rough with feeling. "Perfect as can be." Charlotte leaned her head on his shoulder, watching their baby girl sleep. "I thought I'd lost y'all both. Thought I'd be alone forever." "No way," Daniel kissed her hair. "Your daddy's men shot me twice, left me for dead in the desert. But each time I shut my eyes, I saw your face, heard your voice, had to make it, had to find you." "How'd you survive?" "2 gunshots out there. A rancher found me, old Francisco, and his wife took care of me. Took 3 months just to walk again." Daniel's jaw clenched. "By then you were gone. Your daddy told folks you went east to school. Lied about everything." Charlotte's voice turned bitter. "He said you left me, ran off when he found out about the baby." "I'd never do that. I know that now. Should have believed it back then. Should have trusted you more. You was scared, all alone. Your daddy twisted your mind." Daniel cupped her face. "Ain't none of that your fault. Not one bit." Grace shifted softly in his arms, making little noises. Both froze, waiting to see if she'd wake. But she just snuggled in deeper and sighed back to sleep. "She's gonna need time," Charlotte whispered. "She don't really know us yet. Ellie and Caleb, they're the ones she runs to when she's scared. Then we'll take it slow. Patient as can be," Daniel said, eyes on his daughter. His voice was low. "She ain't familiar with us, not truly. Ellie and Caleb, They're the ones she turns to when fear hits. Then we'll move slow. We'll wait our turn. Daniel gazed at his daughter with care. With a quiet fire, we will earn her trust and her love, however long it takes. What if she never sees us that way? She will, Daniel promised, taking a slow breath. But even if not, that is all right. What matters is she is alive and loved by folks willing to fight for her. Tears welled in Charlotte's eyes. When did you get to be so wise? A small smile touched his face. Almost dying in the desert gave a man time to think. I realized love is not about possession. It is about wanting what is best for a person. And that includes you, Charlotte said, gripping his hand. Grace needs her father. I need you. We are going to be a real family. But what about your father's money and property? You said they would take it all. Let them. I do not want anything of his. Her voice was like steel. We will start fresh and clean, but I have nothing to offer you. No money, no land. Just two hands ready to work. That is more than enough, she said, kissing him. That is everything. The next few weeks brought big changes to Silver Creek. Federal marshals came to investigate Prescott's dealings. 3 officials were arrested. 2 judges were removed from their posts. The bank was put under new leadership. Through all of it, the small family at the doctor's office grew closer. Caleb and Ellie helped. They cared for Grace, helping Charlotte and Daniel find their way. Daniel took a job at the livery. He worked sunrise to sunset to save for their own small place. You do not have to do this, Caleb told him. Stay with us. We have the room. I appreciate that more than you know, Daniel replied, wiping his brow. But I need to provide for my family. I have to prove to myself I can take care of them. You have nothing to prove. Yes, I do, Daniel said, his eyes serious. Charlotte's father tried to have me killed. I was just a poor ranch hand in his eyes. I have to show my daughter a man's worth is not measured by his pocketbook. Caleb understood. He had spent years judging his own worth by what he had lost. The heart he had walled off. You are already a good man, Daniel. Grace is lucky to have you. She is lucky to have all of us. Daniel smiled. I am finally realizing that. Family is not about blood or money. It is about showing up day after day. Grace was walking now, toddling between the adults. She still called Ellie Mama without a thought, but she was warming to Charlotte and Daniel, letting them hold her and smile at their songs. She reached for Daniel's face with curious hands. Papa, she said it softly one morning. Daniel froze in place. Did she just? She did, Charlotte whispered, her eyes full of happy tears. Papa, Grace said again, looking straight at Caleb. Papa. The men just looked at each other. They understood completely. That's right, darling, Daniel said, lifting her. You've got 2 papas now. Grace giggled happily and reached out for Ellie and Charlotte. Mama, she cooed. Charlotte laughed through tears. 2 mamas and 2 papas. She's the most loved girl in all of Texas. Ellie hugged her. She already is. On a clear Sunday in February, the whole town came for the wedding. Sheriff Turner stood as best man. Dr. Whitfield gave Ellie away. Rosa cried softly in the front pew, while Grace wore a white dress. Charlotte had sewn it just for her. Grace toddled down that aisle. She stopped to show folks her flowers, making the whole church smile. At the altar, Caleb whispered, she sure is a natural, ain't she? She must get that charm from you. Ellie's eyes sparkled bright. Oh, I think that is all her, Ellie replied. The preacher began the service. Caleb hardly heard him. He could only see Ellie, the woman who saved him. She looked beautiful with wild flowers in her hair, wearing a simple dress. But it was her strength and her kind, forgiving heart that he adored. "Caleb, do you take this woman?" the preacher asked. Caleb's answer was clear. "I do." "And Eleanor, do you take this man?" Ellie looked right into his eyes. "With all my heart, I do." The preacher declared them husband and wife. "Well, go on. You can kiss the bride." Caleb pulled her in for a kiss. It held a lifetime of promise. The whole congregation cheered for them. Little Grace tugged on his pants leg, not wanting to be left out. He scooped her right up, holding her close between him and Ellie. "We're a real family now," he said. Grace patted both of their faces. Then she said the one word that meant everything: home. The reception at the church hall was full of food, music, and goodwill. Old-timers clapped Caleb's back, glad he'd found happiness once more. Women who once gossiped now hugged Ellie and wished her the very best. "Can you believe it?" Ellie said. "A month ago, we were a town scandal on our side." Caleb just shrugged. "Well, folks are complicated. They follow the herd. When the town turned on Prescott, they did too. It's a hard truth, I suppose. But maybe they just needed a reason to be good again. Prescott had them scared for so long. And now they remember," Caleb said, pulling her close. "That's something, ain't it?" The baby laughed as Charlotte and Daniel spun her around. Pure joy. "They look happy." Ellie smiled. "Truly happy. They got a second chance. We did too." "Yes." Caleb looked at his wife, his heart full. "We sure did." Later that night, after Grace was asleep, the four of them sat by the fire in Dr. Whitfield's office. It had become their place. "So, what happens now?" Charlotte asked. She was curled up against Daniel. "We live," Ellie said. "We raise Grace. We build a life. But this town has bad memories for me." "Then we'll make new ones," Caleb offered. "I've got a little money saved. Enough for some land. We could all build a home." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "All of us? Live together? Why not?" "Grace has 4 parents. It seems a shame to split that up." Charlotte and Daniel shared a look. "We wouldn't want to impose." "It's not imposing," Ellie insisted. "It's family. And family sticks together." "Privacy's overrated," Caleb grinned. "Besides, with how much that little girl eats, we're going to need all the help we can get." Charlotte laughed, a real, true laugh. "Are you sure about this?" "Never been more sure of a thing in my life." Ellie took her hand. "We've been through too much to part ways now. Grace needs us all. Her 2 mamas, her 2 papas, her whole big crazy family." Tears welled in Charlotte's eyes. "I don't know what we did to deserve y'all." "You survived," Caleb said softly. "You fought for your little girl. You stood up to your father. That's more than most folks ever do." Daniel cleared his throat. "I need to tell y'all something." "What is it?" "Francisco, the rancher who saved me, he passed on. His wife did too." Daniel paused. "He left me his land, 100 acres down in New Mexico. Said I was like his own son." "Daniel, that's incredible," Charlotte whispered. "Why didn't you say so? I wanted you to have a choice." He looked at Caleb and Ellie. 100 acres is plenty for 2 families, but we'd have to leave here." Caleb and Ellie just looked at each other. A whole story passed between their eyes. "So," Ellie asked with a smile, "when are we leaving?" Daniel's face lit up. "You mean it? You'll really come with us?" Just try and stop us, Caleb said, holding out his hand. We're family now. Daniel, where you go, we go. Daniel shook his hand, then pulled him in for a hard hug. Thank you. They set out from Silver Creek on a bright March morning as the winter was finally letting go. The whole town came to see them off, even Martha Dawson, who gave Ellie a basket of fresh bread. You take care of that little one, Martha said, her eyes a little shiny. She's special. We will, Ellie promised with a hug. The trip took 2 weeks of rough roads and chilly nights, and Grace had energy for days. She was walking strong and wanted into everything. Keeping her in the wagon was a chore. She's going to be a handful, Caleb said with a smile. She's already a handful, Daniel laughed, and I wouldn't change a thing. They finally reached Francisco's land, their new home, on a warm afternoon. The cabin was small but strong, with plenty of room to grow. The fields stretched out, full of promise. It's perfect, Charlotte whispered. It's home. He put his arm around her. Our home. Grace wiggled to get down and toddled right up to the cabin door. She turned back and looked at him, as if to say, Well, are y'all coming? They followed her inside, a family not by blood, but by something much stronger, a bond of love and choice, made during the hardest times. That first year was tough. They cleared the land and planted, but a late frost killed their first crop. A summer drought nearly did them in, and the winter was bitter cold. But they had each other. Through it all, they had one another. Grace grew from a baby into a curious little girl. She had Charlotte's hair and Daniel's eyes, but her spirit was all her own, strong and fearless. Mama Ellie, watch me, she'd yell, climbing the tallest tree she could find. Be careful, sweet girl. Ellie's heart would just about stop. I'm always careful, Grace would grin. Papa Caleb taught me how. Now don't you put that on me, Caleb would say, hiding a proud smile. She had a name for each of them. Mama Ellie, Mama Charlotte, Papa Caleb, and Papa Daniel. 4 parents who loved her more than anything and would do anything to keep her safe. Do you ever wish, Charlotte asked Ellie one evening, that she was only yours? Ellie thought for a moment. No, I used to think you could run out of love, that the more you gave away, the less you had. But Grace proved that's not true. Love just grows. The more you give, the more there is. She's lucky to have us. Ellie squeezed her hand. We are all lucky. For Grace's 5th birthday, they had a party. Neighbors came from all the nearby homesteads. They had truly built a community. Other folks came, all drawn by the promise of good land. Grace ran between everyone, just a-laughin'. When it was cake time, she wanted all 4 of her parents right there beside her. Make a wish, sweet girl, Daniel said. Grace squeezed her eyes shut real tight. Then, whoosh, she blew out every single candle. What did you wish for, darling? Charlotte asked. Can't say, or it won't come true. Caleb ruffled her hair. She's right. Some wishes are too important. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Ellie found Grace by the window, just looking up at the big Texas sky. I was just thinking, Grace said, sounding older than her 5 years. About what? My story. How I was found in the creek and Papa Caleb saved me. And how y'all fought for me. Ellie sat beside her. Does that story scare you, honey? No, Grace said. It makes me feel special. Like I was worth fighting for. Oh, you are. Mama Ellie, I remember my wish now. You do? Grace nodded. I wished that all the lonely folks could find a family and feel loved like me." She looked up with her big eyes. "Is that a good wish?" Tears welled up in Ellie's eyes. "Honey, that's the best wish in the whole wide world." Ellie kissed her forehead. "And I think you'll spend your life making it come true." Grace smiled. "Good. Now, tell me the story of you and Papa Caleb." Ellie settled Grace on her lap. She began the old, familiar tale. Once, a brave cowboy heard a little voice by the creek. Grace was asleep before the story ended, just like always. But Ellie finished it quietly, like a prayer. She carried Grace to her own bed. Caleb was waiting. After 5 years, he still gave her butterflies. "She finally out?" Ellie nodded, getting into bed. "She wanted to hear our story again. She never gets tired of it. Would you?" Caleb smiled. "No, I reckon not." They laid there, listening to the quiet sounds of their home and their family. In her little room, their daughter was dreaming, safe and sound. "Caleb, thank you." "For what?" "For finding her. For never giving up on us. For giving me my life back." He held her tight. "We saved each other, Ellie. All of us did." Outside, the big sky was full of stars. The same stars that watched over Grace in the creek and Daniel in the desert. And those stars would watch over this family forever. They were a real family now. Theirs was not a typical family, but it was real, held together by a love that would not quit. Grace grew up knowing her whole story, the dark parts and the light. She learned of those who meant her harm and the family who refused to let them win. That story taught her love is stronger than hate and that hope can survive anything. She knew family is a choice, not just blood. And years later, she'd tell her own children. She would sit with them and begin the tale of how she came to be. Once, there was a baby left to die in a frozen creek, but a cowboy heard her crying. He pulled her from the water, held her close, and his words changed everything. Her children would ask, "What words, Mama?" And Grace would smile, remembering the story she knew by heart, the one that shaped her whole life. He said, "Hold on, little one," and she did. Against all odds, she held on, because even as a baby, she knew a powerful truth. What truth, Mama? That love will always find a way. That family is not about blood. It is about the people who show up, the folks who fight for you and never, ever give up. Grace would kiss her children goodnight and then walk to the window, looking at the stars. The same stars her parents watched over her with. She would feel them there. Caleb and Ellie, Charlotte and Daniel, watching over her, loving her always, because that is what a family does. They never let go. And as Grace stood there, surrounded by the life she built, she knew one thing for certain. She had been worth fighting for. Every single one of them had been. And that was the truest story of all.